So, Sunday is Transgender Day of Remembrance, and it's a time for us to honor those who've passed, and many of us have been murdered. Many of us have not survived due to violence against us for being different. Many of us have committed suicide for lack of support from community, not from lack of support from each other, but just living in places where there isn't any support readily available, or there isn't any support at all. There are so many of us in this world that can't just pick up the phone and call a 1-800 number and have somebody on the other end saying, it's okay, you have something to live for. It's just not an option for a lot of people. There are a lot of trans people, I mean specifically. There are a lot of people around the world who are being murdered for expressing their gender. And that hate is still alive and well in Canada, and it's still alive and well in the United States, and it's still alive and well in Europe, and it's still alive and well in Asia, and it's still alive and well all over the place. Africa, India, everywhere. It's alive and well. People are being murdered. People are committing suicide. People are mysteriously disappearing, and their lives matter. Each human life matters. The stories that get me the most when I'm reading online about brothers and sisters of mine around the world who have been murdered, or whose deaths have been mysterious, or they've committed suicide. The ones that get me the most are my sisters who are not honored for their gender, and they're not honored for who they were, and there's no real inquiry into murdered, or who did it, or even giving them the dignity of a correct label of Jane Doe instead of man dressed as a woman. That's not a man dressed as a woman. That's a woman. That is Jane Doe lying there. Somebody killed her, and she deserves to be mourned and honored and respected, because her life mattered too. So, you died August 14th of this year. You were around 30 years old. A little bit older than me. And someone stabbed you to death. You were a sister to me, even as far away as Paris, France, is from here. You were my sister. And even though they didn't honor you enough to identify you as female, I honor you. And I mourn you. My sister, Jane Doe. I mourn you, and I'll light a candle for you on Sunday. And I hope and I pray that somebody over there has honored you also. Light a candle for somebody, or maybe just take a second think about somebody. Or gather with other people via the internet or email or in person and let each other know that you're valued and you should be here. We have lives to live. And they're worth living. And we also need to stop being passive about. We need to stand together and say, this person deserves some justice. This person deserves to be mourned. This person deserves to be honored. You need to see that this person is not a man in a dress that's been stabbed to death in some back alley. This is a woman who's been murdered, and her life means something, and you need to investigate that. Same as this fellow, I think his name was Guarav, was killed by blunt force trauma in Washington, D.C. this year. And he was dressed in women's clothes and a sweater that was cut into the shape of a cardigan, and he was wearing or holding high heels, and there was makeup on him. I personally don't think it's a coincidence that he was dressed like that, because he was known in the community as a trans man. He's a man, and somebody murdered him and dressed him like a woman. This is hate in action, people. We need to celebrate each other. We need to celebrate our being here. We need to support each other. We need to encourage each other. We need to not put up with ignorance. We need to teach people. Remember our dead, but don't forget to live, and don't forget to value each other.